Hey guys, welcome out to the shop. Today we are going to be going over a stopped sliding dovetail. I'm currently building a shelf and I needed a good support for the bracket, and after some different considerations, I didn't want to use any mechanical fasteners or hardware like screws coming in from the top. So I ended up creating a stopped sliding dovetail for this shelf bracket right here. I really like it. It's going to support everything. It's locked in there, really nice and tight. I'm going to go with you guys and show you guys how to do it. One extra tool sort of that you guys can make to assist with this, and let's go ahead and dive into just how you go ahead and start making this. So the reason why I chose a stopped sliding dovetail is because I didn't want one going all the way through, which would have looked terrible on the front side, and I needed something to have a lot of support. And this is where it came into play right here, is being able to lock this into the actual shelf so that I didn't have any kind of weird movements. I do got a slight gap on this side. I could have probably gone a little bit deeper right here, widened it out, but we're going to try to make this next one perfect. And as you can see, you can probably do a couple of different things on this. You can probably recess this front side so that this actually overhangs it, but as you can see on this, you can't really even tell that there's a break between the two of these. It looks just like normal. Very happy with exactly how the first one turned out. So what you're gonna need to do today is get a couple of these tools kind of scattered about here. I have a router plane. You don't need that, but it is useful for having a depth that you want to go to. I have a little dado plane, a chisel, a dovetail marking gauge, a bevel gauge, a chunk of wood. This is just a 2x4. That's what we're going to be using to act as a little helper. Some scrap lumber, and you're going to obviously need a saw, like a dovetail saw or something like that. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and decide on what kind of angle you want for your dovetails. I have this dovetail marking gauge by Kodo. It was bought off of Amazon. It's fairly inexpensive, but it does exactly what it needs to do. It's got 4 different things that you can mark off. You can mark a 1 to 8, 1 to 10 if you're on the inside, 1 to 6 if you're on the inside down here, or a 1 to 5 over on the outside on this edge. And normally the way you would do it is by just putting it on a piece of lumber, marking down your gauge, and that's it. But if you don't have one of these, the way that you get around with it, if you know that you want to do like a 1 to 8 ratio, the way that came about for actually marking it is the 1 to 8 means you move over 1 inch off of a given point in an 8-inch span. So if I were to take a tape measure and I measured up 8 inches on this board and made a mark. Now I'm lucky because this tape measure is 1 inch wide tape, so I could go right to the edge of the board, make a mark right at the end of the tape, and just double check by measuring 1 inch over, and I have my mark that is right here. So the way that what you would do next is get a sliding bevel gauge, and you would actually hook the bottom of the board and make sure that the bottom corner right here is on that edge corner area, and then you would slide it over till it met that 1/8 or the 1 1/8 mark right there at the top. And so now I'm going to go ahead and tighten that up, and I can even just double check this real quick by taking my marking gauge and just kind of lining it up and just seeing what it looks like. And that looks fairly accurate. That looks almost exactly the same. So I know that's exactly what I need. So now I'm going to move on to my helping tool, which is going to be this block of wood right here. And I have already marked it out because I was planning ahead for this. And what I can do now is find this corner right here, line up where this all meets. So now my metal is right there. And now you would just go ahead and make your mark on the side of that. And the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and use a hand plane to work that down. So I'm just going to take my marking gauge and get the correct depth for this, and I'm going to mark it right here on this side. You don't need a marking gauge. You could have a long ruler and do it that way. And so now I've got one long mark right here, and what I'm going to be doing is using a hand plane, just planing this off until I'm at that mark and at the top of this edge right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we will continue on. So I already have my shelf bracket cut out, and what I'm going to do now is lay out my line for where I want it. I've measured in something like 7 inches from this edge, so I'm going to be putting a square right here, making a line this way, and then what I will do is take this and put it right on that line and mark the other side. And what this mark is this is going to be the actual lowest part of the dovetail. So now that you have your marks right here, if you have your bevel gauge and you still haven't done anything with the moving the slide portion of it, and actually go ahead and draw these lines straight down so we know where we got to mark to. So as you can see, I have my outside marks right here traced down. This is my depth right here that I chose earlier to match with the other one. And now what I will do is take my sliding bevel gauge, and I'll see if I can get a good shot of it for you guys. So as you guys can see right here, I have a very slight bevel going on here. I don't want it too big. I don't need it too bulky or anything like that. Just enough to keep holding that bracket in. Now before I cut this, I should have gone the opposite way. What I need to do is also mark and get my bracket cut first. Because if you end up cutting this open first and it's too wide, then this won't ever fit. You can't add more wood to here. So what I need to do, which I apologize, it should have gone through first, is cut this out first. So you guys can see that I have a slight mark on this. And what I use on here is I just go ahead and use the dado plane and trim that out. You can use a chisel, that is fine as well. You can cut it with a saw right here and then chisel it out, That's up to you, but we're gonna go ahead and get this knocked out real quick, and then we'll start working on this portion. So the way I did it the first time was with the dado plane. I'm gonna go ahead and try using a dovetail saw on this time and see which one I feel like is better. It's always good to experiment with trying out different techniques. So I'm gonna use a saw, cut out the line, and then maybe use the dado plane to clean it up. And this also affects the angle of what's going on the bookshelf or the shelf as well. That's why we should have cut this out first to begin with. Again, I apologize. As you can see, there is a slight little bevel on there, and that is exactly what you're looking for. And you pretty much just plane it down until it looks good and even all the way across. And having the saw cut to begin with cleans up this line really nice. First time I did it, I was having to use a chisel to clean that up, so definitely sawing the line first helps. So now that I got the two bevels cut out on that, I'm gonna put it right up against a piece of wood and double check my angles and see if it's deep enough. And I can tell that it is. So if I cut on the waist side of both of my beveled edges, I'll be able to get a nice tight fit right in here. I may even have to come back in here and clean it up and maybe make it a little bit bigger. But it's always easier to take more wood away than having to try and add some. So what I will do now is make a mark in here. And that is going to be for my beginning of the bevel as it goes into the wood. So now I have two distinct lines where I'm going to start, and then where I'm going to finish is down here. So now what I will do is go ahead and grab my piece of wood that we created and double check its angle, and it looks like it's correct. So what I'll do is be able to position my lumber right here, right along one of the lines, and then I got this and I'll put it right up against there, and it will give me that perfect cut for that angle that I'm looking for. So I'm gonna get this all clamped up and get started on it. So I got the clamp and the wood on it, and what I did was line my saw up just on the inside of that line, butted my block of wood up there, held that tight, and then got the clamp in position. So now what I can do is just work it back and forth and keep pressure on that block of wood. And I'm trying it this way this time. The other time I did it freehand and it turned out fine, but I'm trying it this way to see if it will work out better. Alright, so I'm at my depth right here. So now I'm going to tilt it forward a little bit and try to cut it more on the inside of that lumber. So I've got most of it cut all the way up to right in here somewhere. So that is good on this. I'm going to be stopping there, and I'm going to flip the block of wood around, clamp it up on this side. We'll get this other side cut. All right, guys, so I got the ends cut. You can see I got nice bevels right here. And now the only thing to do is to chop out the waste of all of this. And that's just gonna be done like normal with a chisel. And then we'll clean it up with a router plane, So after about less than 10 minutes, probably 8 minutes or so, I do have a sliding dovetail recess. And you can see how there's a good waistline. The baseline is right here on the outside edges. And then I've cleaned up the middle. I ran the router plane through it and it's all nice and flat now. Just started getting to use that router plane, so that was a joy. Need to clean it up and get it sharpened, but it did what it needed to do. It's a little bit deep right here in the middle, that's why it looks a little chipped. And now we're gonna go ahead and try to fit that shelf bracket in there. All right, so I believe that it's going to, yeah, I think it's gonna, I'm almost 100% positive that it's going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and get some glue on here. That will help with a little bit of lubrication as it goes in there and slides into place. And then I won't have to worry about getting it all the way back out. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue in there. And then once I do that, I can go ahead and let it sit there and do its thing, drying. And there you go. There is the shelf bracket right in place. So everything is nice and tight. I got some glue squeeze out that I need to clean up and address. That is the Stopped Sliding Dovetail. So it looks like it's a little bit out on this, like it's not deep enough, but that's going to be easy to clean up. But I'm very happy with that, and we are going to go ahead and let that dry and clean that up, and then we should be good to go and be able to finish up this shelf. So it's very hot out here, guys. I appreciate you guys watching me stick through with this. Hope you guys got to learn something with these Stopped Sliding Dovetails. I'm going to go ahead and get this finished up over the next couple of days and get this hung up in my son's room, and hopefully he will be able to enjoy it and hang up all his little goodies that he's been looking to put up on a shelf. Appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.